Welcome to Talk on the Pod, the podcast where we delve into the remarkable journey of the Takim Foundation's community, who are showcasing the best of the Arab world and paving the way for a brighter future. I'm your host, Andrea. Today, we have the honor of speaking with a true trailblazer, Micheline Nader. Micheline is a best selling author, philanthropist, and healthcare entrepreneur who has dedicated her career to transforming the healthcare industry and empowering individuals to unlock their fullest potential. From her journey as a nurse to founding the Blue Dolphin Healthcare Group, Micheline's path has been anything but conventional. She has redefined success by focusing on purpose driven leadership and using her influence to make a lasting impact in both business and philanthropy. As the co founder of the Jesra Foundation, her work continues to uplift communities through health and education initiatives, both in the US and Lebanon. In this episode, we'll dive into Micheline's powerful philosophy on leadership and the role of conscious awareness in navigating today's rapidly changing world. So sit back and join us as we dive into Micheline's insights on leadership, personal transformation, and the evolving role of human values in the age of AI. Micheline, welcome to Talk on the Pod.
Thank you, Andrea. So excited to be with you and have our discussion today.
We're very happy to have you here. I would love to open with a quote from your book, The Dolphin's Dance, where you beautifully say, "To create the life we desire, we must first learn to dance with our own evolution." This idea of dancing with evolution really captures the fluidity and transformations that happens around personal growth. Can you start by telling us a bit about what that phrase means to you and walk us back into how it shaped both your personal journey and your career?
Actually, that's a beautiful way to start our discussion, with the flow and the dance and the fluidity of it all. I did realize that I was dancing with life when I started to evolve from being a young girl to all of a sudden being like the woman and the leader without even anticipating that growth. But the events in life and the experiences in life led me into, wow, like this may have been a crisis, but actually through that crisis, I evolved, or I leaped, or there was a breakthrough, something that pushed me in a way that I did not even realize or did not intend to be pushed that way. But as we talk about evolution, we think that, okay, we had a breakthrough. Oh, we evolved to the next level. In reality, it's not true, because then you take a few steps back and then you say, okay, I thought that I understood from that situation. I experienced it. I learned from it. Now I'm in I've jumped to the next level. But then all of a sudden you see yourself struggling with the same issue. And then you say, okay, what did I learn? I thought I learned. I thought I grew. I thought I evolved. But yet I feel like as if I'm stuck. But in reality, you're not stuck. What happens sometimes, you take a step back and then another step forward, exactly like when you dance. And that made me think that we dance with life and life dances with us, and we grow through that dance. We grow, we go back, we learn more, we learn differently, we adjust, we go back. And if we keep this in mind, that we're flowing, we're flowing with it, even when we have a setback, that it's really a setback that is teaching us something, or maybe we need to go back and integrate this lesson in a way that is a little different, and then continue the movement. Then that is the dance that we are all dancing through our life, through our evolution.
I think that's a beautiful analogy you make that really transfers just this emotions of back and forth and, kind of hints to this undirectness of sequence of events. With that said, you also talk about, in Dolphin's Dance, the fact that our thoughts create our reality, and this internal dialogue is really this path towards unlocking our fullest potential that starts with an awareness of ourselves. I think that's truly inspiring because it hints to the fact that to truly, advance in life, one must know, what we're made up of, or just control this inner dialogue that happens in our mind. Can you maybe talk about how this idea speaks to the essence of your journey and this importance of conscious awareness that you talk about in achieving our potential?
When I realized that my thoughts were creating my reality, that literally changed my life. And the way I realized it was when I wake up in the morning and I think worrying thoughts or negative thoughts, it just makes me worry the whole day. Mm-hmm. And it makes me not attract the outcome that I want. And anxiety is a negative emotion, actually. I mean, the anxiety and negative thoughts come always from the past. This is when I realized that the anxiety and also the negative thoughts that I had did not come from the experience that I was expecting. Mm-hmm. It came from a previous experience that led me to think that way when I'm triggered in the same manner. And I'll give you more examples because that maybe doesn't mean anything to you or to a lot of people. But when I realized that I could change that thought and not change it as fake it, like just affirmation, I'm going to do well, or I'm looking forward to this presentation, or I'm looking forward to that meeting, but I really integrated that shifted the way of how I am being towards the experience that I'm expecting and shifted the whole outcome of what's happening. Mm-hmm. And that was the real breakthrough that I wrote about in the Dolphin's dance. I realized that as we go through life, and I'm going to talk a little bit about me, you go through crises in life. Like for me, I went through losses when I was young. Like I lost my dad, lost even my country because I had to leave my country. My dad went through a big bankruptcy. I went through major losses. Mm-hmm. But through these crises, these major events marked me in a certain way. And also there was an emotion attached to that crisis. And from that emotion and that I call marker in the Dolphin's dance, and the emotion I call it sticker because it sticks to you. Yeah. It doesn't leave you. Then every time in my life when I went through losses, it could be like when I was an entrepreneur and I looked at my numbers and through the P&L, I saw that there was a loss. But the loss triggered me in the same way. But that emotion did not stop there. There was also a certain verdict that came with it. Like from that emotion, from that loss, came a certain decision that I said about myself. Through these losses, for instance, I noticed that when I was young, I was like, how am I going to make it without my dad? Like I was so attached to my dad. Yeah. So I won't be able to make it alone. And then whenever I had a loss, even when I grew up, it was like, how am I going to make it through this loss? And then the verdict that came from it was maybe I'm not enough. Maybe I'm not enough to be able to go through life alone without my dad. But that came without knowing it because it was in the unconscious. Yeah. And this is when I talk about conscious awareness. Like you bring you render the unconscious conscious to you through your self-awareness. So you're aware that this is not coming from this experience that you have in front of you, but this is coming from your past experience. So then I'll talk a little bit more about it. Then you have your strategy. Like, I'm not going to go through loss again. Then you want to prevent losses in your life, which is really unpreventable, right?
Yeah.
And then you have your strategy, and then you end up like burning your wheels because like you're doing more and more and more in order not to do that, in order not to go through the loss. But when you realize simply that this emotion and this thought comes from the past and it has nothing to do with the situation that you're going through, then you're able to change it. Because if you don't realize it, you're not able to change it. And then you could go through a burnout in your life not knowing what led to your burnout. And then if you change it in the moment, look what freedom you have, the freedom to be with a situation as the situation presents itself, to be with it in the present moment, and nothing else matters. And that's the freedom of the true self, and not the ego, and not protecting what you have or not getting too attached to what you have. And so that's what led me to create not only the Dolphins dance, but to put it in a pragmatic way, so people can have a tool for them to be able to transform and change that thought in the moment and create a better life for themselves.
You know, it's super inspiring. And I think in listening to you talk, it's taking me to many instances in my own personal life where I had to really overcome what life threw at me and respond to it differently. And that's something that I would love to maybe dig in deeper, this attention that we have the power of. I think, like you mentioned, we cannot control the crises that life throws at us, the losses, the challenges, the obstacles. But what we can control is the way we react to it. And, you know, there is this, fake it till you make it, or tell yourself a bunch of affirmations. But what's that shift from talking to ourselves to really embodying our thoughts in order for them to actually actualize? And, I think it's mental strength is something that's a bit not highlighted when it comes to properly leading. And to be a successful leadership has to come from a point of being the better example. So how do you carry that challenge of, doing the work on yourself, but at the same time being a guidance to others?
So here we have to unpack these two questions. That I'll go back to the first one, and the first question was like, fake it until you make it, or embodying really the belief.
Yeah.
So fake it until you make it is not totally bad, because like you're constantly telling yourself something positive and shifting from the negative to the positive. But where is not happening? Where is like you could continue talking to yourself and it's not happening? And why is that? It's because if you don't believe what you're telling yourself, then there is a conflict between what you're telling yourself and what your belief is. And really your brain doesn't know what's what. Your brain will react to really what you believe in, because this is your attractor. Your attractor is what you believe in, and really not what you fake through life. Because your brain, and sometimes if your brain does not get the clear message, it's conflicted.
Yeah.
Like I could give you an example. You absolutely want this, and that was like one of the ladies who participated in one of my workshops. And in her 30s, she got offered this beautiful, beautiful job that took her to travel everywhere. Back then, she wasn't in a relationship. She wasn't even married, and she didn't have kids. And she longed for that job. She turned it down. She turned it down because she said, I want to be in a relationship, I want to get married, and I want to have kids. And traveling is not what's going to be the best for me. So this lady is now in her 50s. She's not in a relationship. She's not married. She doesn't have kids. Yet she turned down her dream job. So what happened back then? She was conflicted. What she believed in and what she was saying were totally different. She said that she wanted to be in a relationship, and she wanted to be married, and she wanted to have kids. Yet her attractor was to be successful, and successful beyond and traveling. And she kept being conflicted that affected both until at the end she gave it up and she said, I'm going full in what I want. And life is like this. It's like starts with your intention. And if you're clear on your intention, then life would know that this is what you want. And your brain will know. And your mindset is the biggest executor of all. The biggest, when we talk about manifesting, actually it's your mindset, your belief system that is the biggest, executor, I feel. And the manifester is your emotions. So when you align your mindset with your emotions, with what you want, then this is where you embody what you really want and you create it. You become it.
So life is not about what we want, but what we are.
That's beautiful as well. Except if what we want is really aligned with who we are and what we really believe in and what we've integrated and embodied.
I would love to turn the focus back on you. I think you beautifully, capture this whole dance with life and with our mindset and this inner dialogue. And I want to focus a bit about, how that served you into all the obstacles and challenges you had to overcome in order to build this life that you live today. Starting with the beginning, what initially drew you to the healthcare industry and what inspired you to, go through the path that you took into a leadership role in this field?
So I'm like many people, as I was growing up and when I was like 16, 17, I didn't know really what I wanted. Right? All that I knew that I lost my dad and he was really sick at the hospital and the nurses and the doctors gave him like really very good care. And I felt like, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a medical doctor and I want to find a cure for cancer. It was like that. But so this is where I started from. It wasn't like, the deep longing to be in the medical field or in the healthcare field. It was like, okay, that's what I want to do. And as long as, and when I got accepted to AUB, to the pre-med, my dad passed away. And all of a sudden, I felt that I was the eldest and I had like younger siblings. And then I said, if I go through medical school, it's a long time, then a lot of financial drain on probably my mom alone with like 3 other siblings. And then I had an aunt who was at the nursing school at the AUB, and she said, the Bachelor of Science in Nursing is wonderful, and that would allow you to care for people. So I shifted. I transferred to and graduated my BSN, and was so miserable. Although I did really well, but I was miserable because every time I wanted to decide or do something, I had to look for a doctor, for the doctor to make the decision. But I loved caring for people at the same time. But I didn't love the fact that I couldn't be the master of my decisions, like decide, do, and that was like part of my personality. So I decided to do my master's in public health and hospital administration, and then life took me in a way that my second year after I did my MPH, I was coming to the States to Johns Hopkins to do my internship in hospital administration, where I got this offer at the American University Medical Center. Back then it was AUH, to be the assistant director of AUH. And I took it, and I was like only 23. And this is what launched my career in healthcare, but mostly in leadership, because I felt that I was thrown into that leadership without preparing for it.
Just taking that journey, you've emphasized this conflict between, purpose versus vocation versus what you had to do. How would you define the mindset that drove you once you launched your career in leadership at a very young age. And how did you discover that that was the purpose, the thing you were meant to be doing?
So I want to just here talk about purpose, because purpose is a nebulous word,
Yeah.
and a lot of people, associated with religious or spiritual, and they shy away from it. So I break it down as a pragmatic as I am, because I found out that leadership was great for me. I'm a pragmatic person, and I do want, whenever I learn something, I want to put it into practice.
Yeah.
Like if I learn it and it stays in my head, and I love to do that, to learn and learn. But if I don't put it into practice, then in a way it does not have a value in my life and the life of people around me. So how did I do that? And I'll go to that point like in a little bit here, because the fact that when I became a leader and I was a successful leader, and I looked around me and saw all these successful leaders around me, and what I meant by success is like they set up to do something and they did it and they achieved it, and maybe they achieved more. Like they had a goal, whatever intention they had, they achieved, and they achieved more. But I looked around me and a lot of people were miserable. Success did not bring them happiness and fulfillment. So I really started digging, like, what's the meaning of a real success? Like, we're successful for what? And after being successful, then being more successful and more successful, and what does this bring you if you're not happy and fulfilled in your life? So for me, being successful and is to be fulfilled in my life. And I looked at these people who are really happy in their life and fulfilled. And what I found out that the common denominator was that these people were passionate about what they were doing, and passionate to a point that they were in the zone. It didn't matter. Like if you're watching a game and you see someone being in the zone, it didn't matter what was happening around them in the arena. They're doing what they're doing. They're overcoming obstacles. They're overcoming challenges. And all that it meant for them was that fulfillment, that passion. So I said, maybe there's something to find out here, because you could be very successful. You could accumulate as much money as you want, as much wealth, and you will die with more zeros to the right of your bank account. But you haven't really been fulfilled or happy. So what's the meaning of all this?
What's the point?
What's the point? What's the point? To go back to what? And that what prompted me to dig into the science of fulfillment and happiness. And I found out, like, even Alfred Nobel himself, it was by error that he was living in France, and the newspaper, the French newspaper, published the obituary of his brother Ludwig, thinking that it was him.
Oh, wow.
And what they mentioned was the merchant of death died because he invented dynamite. And dynamite, while helping in the construction, the demolition and construction, also did a lot of, bad things. And it was responsible for the killing of a lot of people with dynamite. So back then he decided to create the Nobel Prize in all the fields. And he put all his money to improve, from science to philosophy to education to all these physics to all these Nobel Prizes that we have today. And I said, do we have to wait 8 years before we die or after to know that we did not fulfill our dream and our passion? So if at a young age we're able to get in touch with our passion
Yeah.
and create out of our passion a purpose. That's why I'm going to pragmatic, not a push, because people are not going to understand that what is the purpose of your life and why were we created. I wrestled with this all my life.
Meaning.
What is the big meaning of life?
Yeah.
What is the big meaning of my purpose? Am I supposed to do this? Am I supposed to do that? But when you abandon yourself to your innate passion, then your purpose actually is the source of that passion. And we don't know why. And I'll give you an example. Like for me, I said, I did not know I wanted to be in healthcare, or I wanted to be do nursing or public health or hospital administration, or after that, health services management. I didn't know that. What I knew, that I had a deep caring for people. I wanted people to feel better. I wanted, and to whatever I am with them, that's what I cared for. Like whoever is with me, I want them to derive something. Even if we're doing the interview, I would be invested in my interviewer getting something for themselves as well, because this is what fulfilled me, to see people around me happy. So at first, that passion expressed itself through taking care of people, as a nurse, then as a hospital administrator, then as, an entrepreneur, creating those long-term care for seniors and having them happy.
Yeah.
And after that, it was like elevating the leadership of my company, my leadership team. And I found that this what made me happy and fulfilled. So was this my purpose in life? Yes, I was able to discover it late in life, that purpose is like this flowing all through what you have done. But if you were passionate and you were all into what you do, your purpose is expressing itself. Now, does it help to have a personal mission statement and to clarify it and to put it on paper? And you say, I know that my innate passion and talent I discovered late in life was to take all these big picture and demystify them and render them so pragmatic as tools for people to use and get better. So then I discovered that my purpose is to empower people and leaders to transform their life and to leap. And leap by leaping meaning to get to a breakthrough level where they can change and transform their lives for the better of themselves. And this will affect the people around them for sure.
True dedication. And it's sort of, I think what you beautifully express is your purpose is manifesting by connecting the dots of all those passionate moments that you've put in effort and dedication into whatever vocation that you do. And I think it's kind of not about what we do, but how we do things and how we show up, and not just who we are at work, but who we are at home, that starts to define who we are. And it goes back to how we opened this conversation. It's, not about what we want, but who we are. And that is the, common denominator within this dance between purpose and passion, about really showing up as we want to show up and let things unfold the way they are. Because it's challenging when you're young to have like that one sentence that is what you want to do and feel like you're committed to it and can't look left or right. But at the same time, I think it's also challenging to decide that you want to be passionate about, your vocation, the things that you do at work. And in our culture today, it's more about, performative act of, this is what I do, this is my title, the bigger the better, the, bottom line. But are we truly happy when we don't show up for ourselves? And I think that's mainly a positive message that a lot of the younger generation in this very fast-paced economy should maybe get to be more at peace with. Like, I think if there's no point, then what's the point of going on and getting that promotion and getting that job if we're not really fulfilled and we're just waiting to check all the boxes until we, get to that point where we wake up one day and decide we didn't want any of it. What would I think we can segue this into your leadership framework, which you call LEAP, learn, execute, align, and program. Maybe we can, through that framework, talk about some advice you would have to share.
So yes, this what prompted me to write Leap, because leaning into your passion is the first thing that one could do young in age.
Yeah.
And I went with this to like young emerging leaders even before they choose their major. We did like some leadership camps for some universities, and it was wonderful how young people get it. So that's why, like, I have in Leap Beyond Success, lean into your passion is a biggie, because I go through and I even do a lot of exercises where people and young people also, and even people at any age, sometimes we're like very successful, but we really did not give ourselves the chance to lean into our real passion. So how to connect with your passion, and what's the difference between, oh, I'm passionate about this because it's a good idea and I'm having fun with it, and your inner passion. Like every one of us has an inner genius beyond the little hobbies that we have in life. And this is where I found out that my genius, for instance, was to take like even philosophical concepts and very big concepts and mystical concepts, and then demystify them to a tool that you can practice on a daily basis, and that could change your life. So this, I found that this was like my innate genius. But everyone comes to life with an innate genius, even when they don't know it. And the way they can become connected to it is to find out, where do they feel themselves really happy doing what they're doing? Lost in time. Like time doesn't have any bearing to what they're doing.
The zone.
And they're in the zone, right? And it comes easy to them. Like some people have to study to do this, and some people it comes so easy, so natural, so effortless. So there are exercises in the book like that are very easy, that help people connect to that inner passion. So that inner genius is yours. But that inner genius, if you have it and you die with it, stays yours until you decide to contribute it to people around you. Once you start contributing it to people around you, then that becomes your purpose. Because when you get it out of yourself to something bigger than yourself, then it becomes a purpose in your life. And this is where fulfillment happens. Passion and being passionate and happy happens when you exercise your passion. If you get lucky to work in your playground, meaning that to work in your passion and to create around it all your work, then you don't feel that you're working. It's wonderful because you're participating, you're creating in your life what you want to create. If you don't happen to be that happy, because sometimes you have to work in things to make ends meet, right? But then if you're connected to your passion, even if you exercise it a little bit during the day and more, and you're very good at what you're doing, then the opportunity will arise and you will be able to seize it. Why? Because you're conscious, because you're aware that this is my passion. Because if you're not aware that this is your passion, opportunities may pass by and you won't even recognize them.
I see.
And Louis Pasteur said that, spirits that are initiated are the ones who are going to take that opportunity. He said it like in a French sentence, but I'm like making it like in English understandable. So if your spirit is initiated, then you're going to seize that opportunity. But it remains a passion until you contribute it to a bigger circle than yourself. When you were able to contribute it to your small circle, then a bigger circle, to your community, then whoever. Maybe if you're good in singing and you're singing at church, or you're singing at your community service, whatever. And then to society, then that creates the purpose that you love.
I think you lean into something interesting, which is going beyond serving ourselves and starting to think of our surroundings and to serve others. You did mention earlier what success means to you, but I would love to kind of dig into maybe a turning point or a catalyst that really inspired you to explore the deeper dimensions of leadership through impact, through, giving to others versus serving ourselves. And what was that turning point that made you realize that the value of creating impact through our work?
I mean, when I went into long-term care, it was after my grandma died, and she died in Lebanon, and I didn't have the chance to see her. It was during the war, and I was in the States, and I was in France even, and I wasn't able to get to her. No, I was in the States, and I decided that the opportunity arose. I didn't decide. The opportunity arose, but I really felt that longing. I wish I could have been with her, and I loved my grandmother a lot. And then when I had the opportunity to be in long-term care, and I saw these old ladies sitting there, and they reminded me of my grandmother, it was like, wow, I will have the opportunity to serve all these women and senior ladies, and instead of, because I didn't have the chance to serve my mom and my grandma. So we choose things for emotional reasons and for personal reasons, and it is all right. Your mission statement is going to change all your life, because I was in hospitals before, and then shifted to long-term care. The opportunity arose, and I did great with long-term care. Like every single person I was serving was reminding me of my grandma or my grand. So it doesn't matter how you express it, but you're expressing it. So the shift was first to be able to serve others. The second big shift happened, of course, when I created an impact for the seniors. In hospitals, when you created an impact like of efficiencies and good managements, for sure. But I wasn't yet really deeply connected to that impact until I started with long-term care. And when time was rough for long-term care, I wanted to create the perfect environment for them. I remember when I took my first project, and it was through university, McGill University in Montreal, in long-term care. We had moved from France to Montreal, and I was interviewed by McGill. They wanted to create like a long-term care, like a top-notch facility with Alzheimer's research, and they interviewed me, and I took it. And I had no experience in it. And this is where I told you that sometimes it's an impulse.
Yeah.
It's an impulse, but you're still like within that passion of yours. Then I went back home and I said, oh my gosh, what did I do? I don't know anything about long-term care. And it was like an empty, beautiful building in Westmount in Montreal. And the founder and the owner said, okay, this is yours. You develop it, you develop the programs, it was an empty building. You develop everything. And we had just moved to Montreal, that I did not even know the health system in Montreal. And all of a sudden I'm like, wow, what do I do now? How do I start?
Yeah.
And I looked, when I went into that building, there was a stretch bed, and I was like, who's needing that? These people are coming here, it's their home. Let's humanize it. Let's do this. So I invented from scratch, not from a preconceived notion. And that led to innovation and to the creation of a beautiful setup. So I don't know if this answers your question, but yes. But then it impacted the life of these people. And this is what happened when I started like owning my own in the United States. The impact on the quality of life was the one that motivated me. So it wasn't, of course you have to be successful, and don't get me wrong, like you have to be successful. If you're not successful, you're not going to be able to innovate and to have the funds to do more. You have to get, execution is very important. That's why the second E of LEAP, the framework, is execute from your purpose. You have to be able to execute. You have to be able to have your goal, to have a framework of success by design, to have your KPIs, to have like your big, hairy, I call it the BHAG, audacious goal, and to be able to execute in order to be successful. But to go beyond is success for you doesn't mean anything if you don't bring people around you, if you don't have the impact on the people that you're serving, if the people you're serving are not happy, then what does this mean? For me, it meant nothing. It did not lead to fulfillment. And I could tell you, maybe to 95% of the people, if they really think about it, and the leader, and they get in touch with their humanity, they will find that fulfillment is when they contribute this to the betterment of people around them.
It's easy to be blinded by, the titles or the financial milestones when thinking about what success means in the age and day and age that we live, and to maybe focus on the age that we are today. We're really leaning towards a much more digital era that is reshaping the way we've done mostly everything. And you have your new book, Leap Beyond AI, that you just launched about a few weeks ago, that really captures, your trajectory and how you were able to have some takeaways on leadership in the traditional matter, but you really try to focus how this digital era is, balancing with humanity, that point you made earlier about the humanizing aspect and reshaping leadership. You've stated that the wisdom of traditional leadership can teach us much, but the evolution of the digital era demands a new kind of leader. From your experience, maybe we can bridge that gap between old and new and talk about how this traditional experience through leadership, what it taught you about the world, and maybe how you see it evolving as we leap into a more AI era.
Yes, absolutely. That even in Leap Beyond Success, before I wrote that was published 2 years ago, before Leap Beyond AI, I did mention that traditional leadership was not enough for our evolution, because we had to deal with the pandemic and a lot of things, and we noticed how important was leadership and to leap through leadership, because we're all connected. Like a case in Wuhan or in China has affected the whole world and crippled us, and until now we're dealing with the COVID-19 and probably other infections and new infections that will surface. So leadership is very important. But as Leap Beyond Success was born, also was born the ChatGPT. And people started relying, including myself, more and more, and be fascinated with this, not knowing, or probably knowing, but ignoring that AI was embedded in a lot of things we did. Even the Google search, whatever we do, Netflix, Amazon, AI was embedded there. Actually, it was in Dartmouth College where the first symposium was on AI in 1954, when the term AI was coined, and it was there, but we were not aware of it until we started like, oh, this is AI, this is ChatGPT, this is what is going. And then I started digging. How could you leap beyond success as a leader? And it's not like you're a leader and you're leaping here and AI is happening here. It's like part of it.
Yeah.
And some people were not making the link or integrating it. And some leaders were not even being aware of their responsibility in this huge, humongous creation that us humans are creating, that could dehumanize us and could make us like very smart and intelligent and could give us a lot of answers also to real challenges that we're struggling with. And how could this happen? And how could we be oblivious? Because you get organizations and leaders who refuse to talk about AI and do not want to mess with it. And it's not always the oldest ones. So there is a generation gap, but sometimes like also in the generation within their 40s and 50s, like they're very scared. They don't want to embrace it. And now, rightfully so, we have to be cognizant of the fact that AI could dehumanize us. And I'll tell you how. Even the founders of AI, from Sam Altman in OpenAI, or Mustafa Suleyman in DeepMind, or Yuval Harari, or the philosophers, or, they talked about dehumanization, but also the singularity. So this is for the first time in our life as humans that we're creating something that is much more intelligent than us. And I say not only computation, but in the machine learning, we know that it learns from itself. And sometimes like going rogue without the prompts, and the super intelligent AI and the progression and the speed. So really the speed at which is developing, some say it's 10 times every 6 months, like some of the founders. So what does this mean? It means that all the next generations of AI are going to be more intelligent than you and me, than Elon Musk, than everybody. Like already it's more intelligent.
Yeah.
In computation, the acceleration, the speed, in pattern recognition, in the humongous data that is available and making all the connections. That pattern recognition, we know that it's not the forte of our young generation, pattern recognition, because they're always on their digital and it's fed, like the information is fed to them. So they're not like struggling in order to make connections and the patterns and how to recognize that. In deconnecting with ourselves and with other people, because then you have these intelligent AI agents that even Mustafa Suleyman does not call AI a tool. And a lot of people call AI as a tool. He does not call AI tool. He found the best term to explain what AI is, because of the AI agent, is the digital agent. Like we are human agents, and he calls them digital species. Like we're the human species, they're the digital species. Why? Because he said a tool, a human being or a leader can control it. But we're at a stage right now where we're developing AI that we can't even control.
Yeah.
So it means that there are species, and there are going to be more of species and happening here. And what is our role as human beings? So traditional leadership is not enough for a lot of reasons. It does not address the speed at which this exponential progression is happening.
There's so much to keep up on at the very fast pace rate. And, by the time you've learned something, it's probably outdated. So, how do we fill that gap?
And I'm not sure that we will be able to fill the gap. Like you can't keep up. And our brain is not wired that way. And traditional leadership does not address the complexities of it all, because AI is not touching just one aspect of leadership. It touches everything, all the domains, right? That's why we talk about stackables, like organizations won't be able to catch up at the same speed that we're developing AI. And also the uncertainty. Because right now, even if you ask the founders of AI, they said, we don't know.
That's true.
So that's why the traditional leadership won't. But what the traditional leadership has taught us, that the most successful leaders are those leaders who have empathy, who have compassion, and that emotional intelligence is very important, is a treasure that we have to hold on to.
Yeah.
And how to bridge the gap So we have a lot of questions, but leaders have to be aware of these questions. And leaders have to take the lead.
Yeah.
Because like, what's AI today? We understand that AI is this super intelligence, going to continue to learn from itself. And as long as investors and people who want to have like, not only investors who want to have more money and more things, but also to get answers for a lot of challenging questions, global questions we're going to tap into. But AI today is about leadership, how to lead AI into the next phases.
So you've mentioned the importance of preserving our human values as we, bridge traditional leadership with this technology age. How can we stay grounded towards maybe our own human journey, but living in a technology era?
That's a very important question. I feel that the digital bombardment, it's like you're bombarded by everything,
That's
right?
true.
Digitally. Our brain is not wired that way. And we have to preserve our wellness.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to consciously know that this is too much. And not only have rest during the day, but also go back to sitting quietly.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you don't meditate, don't meditate. But meditation would be great because like you quiet your mind. Even if you take like 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes during your lunchtime, just like sit and relax with no noise, no cell phone, no digital anything, no thinking. And in the evening is very important, or else like we're not wired the way AI is wired. Like our net, the network, all the neural networks outside, and our neural networks inside our brain, the circuit will be like the fuses. We're not created that way.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to recognize that probably we created something that us humans cannot handle. Then we have to really get digital detox. Like I call it digital detox. Like for me, I decided that in the evening from 8 to 12 is my digital detox every day. That's it. I
disconnect.
Some people have to go back to the Sunday for the Christian, the Saturday for the Jewish, where like the Friday for the Muslim, where they stop and they have this day off.
The rest.
So we have to have a resting day and create more wellness.
Mm-hmm.
Exercise, all the things, like sleep well. And it's not easy to sleep well with everything digital that is ringing around you, right? Even I used to meditate more in the morning. Now I have my music on my iPhone. So what happens is I forget to turn off the notification. Even if I'm meditating, then I'm getting like Siri telling me who's sending me text and what are my emails and all this. So we have everything now on one, handheld device. I used to have the small, iPad, the pink one, the Apple one, and no notifications, nothing. And then with this acceleration of getting emails and people expecting this, like right this moment, right this minute, and getting answers right away, we're becoming impatient. So we have to really be conscious that wellness is important. But not only that, I say align mind, body, and AI with wellness. So when we create AI, we have to create AI as a human-centered AI. And this is leadership. Like we have to demand from the programmers, from whatever platform that we're creating, that it has to be human-centered. And then what's really important for our human intelligence is not to over-rely a lot on AI. It's good to use it and to use it properly. But if you use it instead of your brain all the time, you're over-relying on it. So what happens, these skills are going to fade away. You're going to lose these skills. And so for us to know where to rely on an AI and to interrupt that circle. And the next thing is experience. Nothing will be worth the experience. The experience of you and me sitting here instead of like just having the digital experience. Like last week, it was an AI agent researcher who was now like found this great research, and now they're gonna put the name of the AI agent for a Nobel Prize. You know, do I have something to say about it? Am I a little skeptical? Look, we want to use AI for research because, I mean, the capacity of AI to get us like answers for research, for tutoring, for education, for healthcare, for everything is humongous, and we need to use that. And we have it. Why not using it? But should we as humans like know what we're researching and what we're turning and understand it and integrate it? Yes. Or else then we will be the species that is less, and AI would be the super intelligent species, and we won't know what the AI agents are creating because we won't be able to control it. So this is where we will be more dehumanized. So the experience, the control, and why we want to create something that is constantly more intelligent than us that we don't control. Like we have to have a say in that, in our governance, right?
I love how you kind of mesh that control with reclaiming what makes us humans in the first place, and maybe going back to the analog practices that made us all too well, you know, the qualities that we have today versus just fully relying on technology to guide us, to teach us. I want to focus a bit about just, you know, reflecting on your journey. I think you've seen all the technology shifts happening as you were blended into the workforce and took on those leadership roles. What personal practices or mindsets helped you navigate all those changing times and adapting into a new era and, you know, staying resilient in the face of it all?
You know, you're a humanity. And when I talk about conscious awareness, I really mean it. And I don't talk about it as a nebulous word of conscious awareness. Like, I know there is this big C and A of conscious awareness, but I talk about it as bringing consciousness and awareness to what we do, to everything we do. And what does this mean? Even at work with your leadership, to be aware that if you're introducing a certain technology and it's taking away from the human aspect of connection, because you have to, because it's like, look, when we moved, let's say, I give you an example in, you know, the medication, the unit dose, where the nurse does not have to like go and dig and get every medication for the patient, but to get it right from the pharmacy label. Well, the nurses lost also the information about the patient. Why is this patient taking this medication, like the heart? What is wrong with the patient? So dispensing the medication and just giving it as an act became... It dehumanized also this process if the nurse did not go back and study her patients really well. So what did you have to do? You had to create meetings where the nurses pass on the information and talk about the patient as a human and what is happening for this patient through this. So you have to be able to know at each level, whenever there is a technology taking over, whether now with robotics, like dispensing, you have to know that this connection is very important for us human and the experience of it. And this is where the companies that will be able to create the experience and the connection will have an edge in the future. Yeah. We will be longing for that. So that was an important aspect. The other aspect is that you have to know that you're connected with other humans.
Yeah.
You're not living in a world by itself. Whatever you do has an impact on others, and to be cognizant of how you're doing it and how you're affecting the people around you in the most positive way. And why do you want it to be positive? Because if you affect it negatively, it comes back to you. It's like we're all in the same marasmus together.
Yeah.
So whether you're not doing it only for the other person, but you're doing it also for yourself, because it brings you the connection, it brings you the fulfillment. We're all connected. And this connection is a valuable thing that I've learned throughout life.
Reflecting about your lessons, I would love to touch upon your identity and your Lebanese roots, and kind of how we started this conversation about your upbringing in Lebanon. You have a deep understanding of both Western and Middle Eastern cultures, and you've bridged different cultural words throughout your career. How has your Lebanese heritage influenced your approach as a leader, especially today in American healthcare and business and nonprofit, especially in empowering people across different communities? And maybe talk a bit about, your own cultural awareness and your journey as a leader.
Yes, thank you. This is a beautiful question that is dear to my heart, because as I was going through my journey, I did not realize how much my Lebanese culture has affected me. As Lebanese, when we grow up, maybe I was lucky also to grow up in a family in Lebanon where the women are really respected. Like my aunts, my grandmother, everybody studied. Everybody had. They were respected as women, and I'm not sure that this happens across all, the fiber of the society in Lebanon. I'm not sure, but I know that I was lucky that way. So that created in me this trust in myself as a woman. Even at the age of 23, when I was appointed assistant director at the American Hospital of Beirut, I was really young, and I looked young, and I was tiny. And I remember every time I went through security in order to get to my office, I had to show my papers and my identity, because people oh, no, it's not so it's not that the culture was okay, it's accepted for a woman at age 23 to be an assistant director at a hospital. Not always. But sometimes I used to say, I'm going to visit Mrs. Nader, myself, in order for them to allow me. And so that was one aspect. The other aspect was my family was always even my dad believed in me. And as Lebanese, we have also this culture of wanting to study. Education is very important for Lebanese people. And now it's not a surprise to me, because we know that some of us Lebanese are Phoenicians, and with the DNA it is proven that we're Phoenicians. And the Phoenicians are also the ones who created the word, the alphabet. So education is very important, and Beirut is a hub of culture. In any studies, cultural studies, religious studies, languages. So that was something that was in me. I love education, to know more and to be more. And in Lebanon also, there is this belief that you can escape your cultural strata or by education. Everyone wants to be a medical doctor, an engineer, something, and it opened doors for them. So that Lebanese culture of not stopping and going, that was great. The generosity of the Lebanese culture, and also the grace with which we welcome other people in our life is beautiful. This is something that I kept with me. Where the West was a much of help to us Lebanese is the discipline, is the, being in countries where there is a certain structure to the country helped us also as Lebanese people, and to me, to succeed and to fulfill also our dream in a way.
In talking about that approach to work and to life, that our values as Lebanese instilled in us, I think we give a very big importance to the mother, the head of the family in our culture. And you raised your family in this side of the world.
Women do a lot, and not only in our culture. And they assume a lot of responsibilities as mothers and wives, and at work, and they're not always recognized in the different roles. It's assumed that you're a mother and you have to do that, or it's assumed that you're a wife and you have to be present at all times. I mean, the society is shifting. And we're moving from that patriarchal society to a more cooperative, I think, society, which is beautiful as well. But as a Lebanese, I wanted my role as a mother. I was wanting to do all at the same time. I did give up when we were in France, big positions, because I did not want to totally travel, and then but I had also big assignments and positions as well, where I traveled, but I would travel for 2 weeks at a time, and I would juggle that with my husband not having to travel back at that time. So you juggle a lot, and so women right now are more into shared responsibilities, which I love, but also as a woman, especially in the age of AI, I'm really cognizant that women have to be in touch with their intuition. They are intuitive. We're open to that intuition even more than men. And we have to be in touch with that intuition, because this is something that AI doesn't have. And we have to develop characteristics of us as women and humans that distinguish us from the digital age, and at the same time use AI to facilitate a lot of our work in order for us to be free to explore these dimensions. So women have a big role, and I feel that woman leadership is really big, especially in our part of the world. For the Middle East, the MENA region, for stability, I think women will struggle more sending their kids to war than men. And I feel that we should use that about women. Women leaders and leadership should be encouraged. And we're heading towards a time and an age where a lot of characteristics of women are going to be more and more needed and more valued. And the sensitivity to be able to sense systems around us.
Yeah.
This is another faculty that we may be losing with the age of AI in terms of leaders. And to be able to sense the field, women have this faculty. So I really want women to know that they have these powers, and it is within them to develop them and to stand for themselves. And I really would love for women to stand for women, which sometimes was not the case in the past. But I feel that there is more and more women standing for women.
Definitely a paradigm shift over there. I would like to shift to your place within Taklim America. You've won the Lifetime Achievement Award and currently serve in the board of directors of Takrim. What drew you to the organization's mission? And maybe how is your work with Takrim really shifting your perspective on the importance of, the Arab diaspora, highlighting and amplifying the voice of Arabs around the world?
So for me, when Ricardo interviewed me and then he approached me to be on the board of Takrim, I did not know really what they did, except that I was fascinated by his sentence to recognize unsung heroes in our societies and the minorities. And he said, we talk a lot about like wars and things in the Middle East, but we don't highlight, enough their achievements and the unsung heroes. And for me, it was a great mission to do this because I believe in the goodness in the world. I believe in the goodness in every single society. And the more we tap into the goodness and we shed light on the goodness, then the bad aspects of that will disappear. All that we have to do is to be a beacon of light and shed that. And that what drew me to being on the board. Also, I was fascinated by the Lebanese diaspora in the United States. Well, throughout my journey, I wasn't very connected to the Lebanese people or the Lebanese diaspora. Actually, I feel that my journey was like the hero's journey of Joseph Campbell, if I may say, where you leave your roots, you leave your country, you don't want to have anything to do with it. Then you go through your journey, you go through your crisis, you learn from the crisis, you get all these lessons, and then you grow, and all of a sudden you awaken and you want to go back to your roots and help out with that. And I always say this is what happened to me. I wasn't connected, and all of a sudden, just before I met Ricardo, 2 years before, I started wanting to go back to my roots, and I helped with Save the Children through a big project for Lebanon that I considered big, and it was fascinating project, and it gave me a lot of fulfillment. And this is how I reconnected and connected with Ricardo and started wanting to know more about this. I did not know anything about the Arab diaspora, and this is, I feel, it's Ricardo's, forte. He knows the Arab world, and I was also fascinated by the people that we honored at Takrim to know more about what they do and their journey. And this is really helpful. It's helpful. It's helpful also for the new generation to know that, you know what, we could do that.
Yeah.
At first, when I used to be honored, I was like, I don't want to be honored. Like, why is it me? Like, I don't want to feel like going on a stage and say, why am I recognized and not this person? And this person is more deserving than me. It's always this feeling. And until now, like, I don't like that. But then when they tell me, look, they want to hear your story because you could be a role model for someone who is exactly like you and who wants to be and to be encouraged by your journey. And that's what it is. To just shed light on the unsung heroes and their journey and what they did in order for them to be where they are. And not only to be successful, but for Takrim, one of their criteria is to give back to either their communities, whether their communities is here or in Lebanon. And that aspect is fascinating to me.
Micheline, I would love to start closing out with a few rapid fire questions that you can answer in a word or a sentence. What wisdom would you share with young entrepreneurs, specifically from the MENA region, who are just starting their journey and want to feel inspired about the possibilities?
Believe in yourself. Connect with your passion and go for it. Nothing should stop you. And if something is stopping you, just be aware enough to go get the tool to become unstoppable.
If you can share a lesson, or a key lesson from your journey in work, in leadership, in personal development, what would you want it to be?
You're as good as the people who you're working with. So surround yourself by people who are good, attract them and upskill them, and invest in the human power. You're as good as this human power around you.
What is a tool or practice you can't live without?
I personally cannot live without meditating in the morning, at least for 10 minutes, and closing my day with the lessons learned and the gratefulness, like being grateful to what the day has brought to me. And know that even the days that bring hardship, there is a big lesson. And if I'm just sleeping with the feeling of, oh, I didn't achieve much today, or that was a silly day and I don't feel good, then to just listen to myself and see, what is the day trying to tell me? What is the learning? Because the juice is not by just judging what happened. The juice is by learning from it.
And finally, what is a motto or a phrase that you live by?
Just be kind. I mean, all that the world needs is kindness. Just know that everyone has a chip on his shoulder or her shoulder. And beyond what you see, even when you meet the nastiest individuals, there is something that they're struggling with. Be present. And then be all in, like be in the present moment. Be all in with the circumstance and with the people you're with. Like, give it all.
I think that's a beautiful note to end the interview on. Micheline, I would like to thank you so much for being so honest and real with us today and joining us on Talk on the Pod.
Thank you, Andrea. You're amazing. You also create the space for someone to be. And for that, I'm really grateful for you and the podcast, and Takrim also for what you do in the world.
Thank you so much.